Hi, my name is Michael Angelo Caruso, and I am a communication consultant. What this means is that I help teams do better than they could normally do. And one of the ways I can do that is I come in from the outside without any baggage, without any checkered past, without any history with the key players. And I objectively and good naturedly ask questions about how we might be better. And this works to a great extent with most teams, 99% of the time. But one of the things that we find along the way is that one of the things that plagues teams is individual personalities that aren't maybe as strong as they could be. They aren't as reinforced as they could be. To be blunt, a lot of our teams have people that, well, their self-image hasn't been fully cultivated, fully developed. And this happens for various reasons. If you've had a tough upbringing, if you had a fractured family growing up, some people do without a mother or a dad, or they have a part-time mother or part-time dad. What happens is this shows up later in life, right? It might show up at work in your personality traits, and nobody would ever say, you probably didn't have a father when you were growing up. And they might not say, your mother didn't love you, did she? But something happens later in life where it just comes out in your personality. You're not as easy to work with as you might otherwise be. Maybe you have trouble trusting people, right? So what happens when we're dealing with esteem, self-esteem, and self-concept later in life is it's really important to have it be reinforced. And if you didn't have it growing up, if you didn't get it in school, if you didn't have a teacher who took you under his or her wing, maybe you don't have a good self-esteem program at home right now. You've got to figure out a way to put this program in place for yourself, right? I mean, it's called self-esteem, but the truth is you can get esteem from other people. In fact, you can get esteem from total strangers. If you're watching this video and you and I have never met, you can get self-esteem from me. If I tell you you're great, if I tell you you're flawsome, I love that word, flawsome, a combination of flawed and awesome, right? Because nobody's perfect, right? Even the people among us that feel the best about themselves, they have problems, some of them serious issues. But by recognizing that nobody's perfect, we all have flaws, but we can simultaneously be awesome. My dad used to say that when you asked him how he was doing, he used to say, well, I'm perfect and getting better every day. You know, if you ask people how they're doing and they say, well, I'm perfect, you think, well, that's kind of arrogant, you know. But my dad was so cool. He said, I'm perfect and getting better every day, which was his way of saying, I'm perfect and I'm getting better, which means I must have some flaws. I must have issues. And, you know, my dad did have problems. He wasn't a perfect person. He was recognizing that he's at a station in life, but he's optimistic about the future. It's actually a really good attitude to have. So when I was 6 years old, my dad gave me my best lesson in self-esteem ever. And I've shared this many times in front of live audiences when I speak around the world at conferences and in consulting arrangements with clients and that sort of thing. But I thought I'd give you a one-on-one story today. I was 6 years old, and my father called me into the room, and I was called Mike when I was growing up. He said, Mike, he says, who is the most important person in the world? Well, I was 6. You know, I didn't know how to answer the question. When you're 6, you just tell your dad whatever you think he wants to hear, right? And I said, well, you are, Daddy. You're the most important person in the world. And my dad smiled, you know, and he nodded. But then he shook his head no, and he said, son, I want you to think hard about the answer to the question. I'll ask you again. Who is the most important person in the whole world? And I thought about it again. If daddy can't be right, the answer must be mommy, right? And this time I made my dad laugh. And he said, son, mommy is really important. And I'm glad you think that she's important. But I want to ask you one more time, son. I need you to really think hard about this. Who is the most important person in the whole world? And I gave it another thought. And I looked in my father's eyes and I said, I am, Daddy. And my dad smiled, his big Italian smile, and he said, that's right, son. You're the most important person in the world. And you know, it's the best self-esteem lesson I've ever received. I've learned later in life that I'm not more important than anybody else, but I'm as important as everyone else. This is a photo of my dad and me way, way back in the day. Can you see it? He was a trumpet player. I was very, very young there, maybe 1 year old. And I miss my dad. I actually recorded my dad wrote some letters to my brothers and me, and I actually recorded the letters in an audiobook, and that's where the photo comes from. So anyway, I hope you don't let people get you down. I hope you don't get down on yourself. Everybody has flaws. Everybody is awesome, and you are flawsome. More information about my products and programs at michaelangelocaruso.com.